everyone. I just turned the recording on. Welcome everyone. There was a couple minute delay because we were hoping more individuals could join us for today. There are more people registered. So should we just wait a minute more? Because this is a group that tends to come in a little late. What do you think?
Serena, are you at home or is this your office?
I'm not at home, but
welcome everybody. Welcome. So I wanted to take a quick minute to do some introductions to make sure everybody knows each other. Grace is grabbing lunch, so she'll be off camera for a little bit. So I'm Lisa. Let me go through a little bit. Welcome and introductions. How's that? So I'm Lisa Furr. I'm with Lifespan of Greater Rochester. I work with the National Center on E-MDT and talking about MOUs. Could call it the good, the bad, or the ugly, but more like when collaboration is hard. And that is often the case in our communities. And so we wanted to do that. So if y'all could just very briefly introduce yourself and where you're from so that we get a chance to greet each other. Marty, you want to go first?
Sure. Marty Washington from the National Clearinghouse on Abuse in Later Life, and we are a partner on this project.
And Grace Chong from NICEAC, also the project manager on this. And then and Serena, you want to go next?
sure. My name is Serena Eisenberg. I'm the coordinator for the Philadelphia Elder Abuse MDT within the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office.
Krista, then Jamie, and then Stephanie.
I'm Krista Clapp. I am the Elder Abuse Program Specialist at the New Hampshire Department of Justice, and I coordinate the New Hampshire Financial Abuse Specialty Team, also known as the FAST, as well as a county-based E-MDT, or county-based, 10 of them actually, eventually, but we're looking towards that model. So yeah, that's who I am.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jamie Schlaffer. I'm the E-MDT coordinator here for Metropolitan Family Services Legal Aid Society. Our MDT is predominantly in Cook County. And so I don't want to say we are the financial intervention exploitation team for Cook County, but I don't know of another one. So we'll just go with that.
And I'm Stephanie Edwards. I am the E-MDT coordinator for the Peninsula Elder Abuse Forensic Center based out of Yorktown, Virginia.
Excellent. Well, thank y'all. So just so y'all know, we're grateful to the Office of Victims of Crime and the Department of Justice for funding the program. And housekeeping, put yourself on mute if that's going to be a problem. Unmute if you need to. Use the chat feature. Marty will help me keep an eye on the chat. I do want to go ahead and ask questions and chat with each other if need be. This is me. Y'all all have my email address and all of that kind of stuff. This is my selfie of the back on the back deck to get a brick wall behind me. So here's what we're going to look at. We're going to differentiate between MOUs and some other agreements. We're going to analyze the barriers for other agencies towards working with the team and determine the most effective method of collaboration with difficult team members and partner agencies. Is that what y'all signed up for? Excellent. Okay. So we're going to start a poll. Which of the following choices do you have for your team? Marty, if you could launch that. you have an MOU? Do you have a confidentiality agreement? Do you have letters of support or a membership agreement?
But we can only choose one?
Can they only pick one or can they pick more than one?
I mean, it
Oh,
says
they
single.
can only pick one. Sorry.
Right. Okay.
So do all of you have a memorandum of MOU and a confidentiality agreement, or are those in the same?
Do you see the results, Lisa?
I see it showing up where they've answered them, yes. Okay. Righty? So let's look at kind of what's an MOU. And this comes from some of the, there are two different things that I dug into to do some of this work. One was Talitha Gwen Schaefer's Department of Justice, DOJ, the Elder Justice Initiative that some of y'all have attended her workshop with Kylan on being a coordinator of an MDT. And they have an excellent resource for a toolkit on MDTs. And so I pulled some info from that. Also, Candace Heisler did some research for us on a variety of topics, memorandums of understanding being one of those. So this is the definition that's with the Department of Justice, which that's where our funding comes from. I thought we'd go with that. So it's within the context of EMDTs, they're formal agreements between two or more parties that typically outline the roles, responsibilities, and expectations of each of the members. They're typically set up after a team has begun meeting, and it's determined its purposes and goals, the membership and vision, so that folks know what they're agreeing to. And then those decisions are put into that document and signed by the agency or member organization's leadership to serve to provide structure, predictability, and accountability to the MDT. So the MDT, the MOUs commit the leadership of the agency to participate in that MDT effort and may be helpful for obtaining that active participation in that and accountability if needed. In some communities, MOUs include detailed information about membership and commitments and how cases will be handled, intake criteria, the whole policy and procedure. And in others, it's really just an outline of kind of the key elements and what we're looking at from them. Then with letters of support and confidentiality agreements, we've spent a lot of time, and if you're interested, we've got the webinars about confidentiality agreements that Lish has done for us, Alicia Aiken, and you can watch those. But the letters of support are usually written for grant applications. So it's different agencies saying, if you get this grant, we will help support it. And we're committing to attending, 80% of these meetings or something along those lines. The confidentiality agreement, of course, deals with how that specific information and what information is shared within the teams.
Lisa,
So yes.
we have a question in the chat.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't watching the chat too.
Yeah, I'm watching it for you. They're
Okay.
executing.
So
Okay.
yes, and Jamie's using that term as signing it again or acknowledging it or probably initialing it if need be.
Mhm.
And we'll talk about that, how as this says, it should be that time limited document, revisited regularly, or if an agency has a turnover. So if it's signed by the head of the agency and any of those signatures move on, it's important to get that signed again. So, so one of the reasons that
It says
that
when you
I
find
see.
it necessary or
Got it.
helpful.
So it should be time limited and revisited on that regular basis to keep everyone at to keep it at the forefront of being connected to the mission and vision and what they've agreed to. That's important. And the other reason is that having the agency head sign it, above and beyond the fact that it is often considered a legal document, it's important that that the director or the agency head keeps the effort of the MDT on the minds of the leaders in that agency, and keeps them involved with what their agency has committed to do. So because it's often considered a legal document, it's important that some agencies are going to want their lawyers to look it over and need to provide time for that. So because of that, make sure that it is accurate and it complies with the statutes in your jurisdiction. If some MDTs are mandated by statute, and if that's the case, you would want your MOU to cover that and how that plays out. So yeah, good questions on that. Anything else from folks? Okay. So what happens if I can't get the MOU signed? I was reminded earlier that sometimes not responding to something is a response. So if they're not responding to your emails, that might tell you something. And so, it's different now than it was at the height of the pandemic when some of this grant started. So, take a hard copy and just stop by the agency. Ask if you can have a minute or two of the agency head's time. Do a cold call if you need to, or say, I'm dropping by with donuts for the staff and wondering if you'd have a minute. In the email, highlight the benefits and the successes that the MDT can bring to their agency. We talk about a lot of times in some of this work that some agencies are going to want to know what's in it for me. They're going to want to know, how is this going to make my job easier? So outline how you can potentially save their agency money, or perhaps even that you can offer services or enhancements to their client that they could not do alone. So the whole thing is, look at it from the agency's perspective of who is signing. And then, there are times when you might have a better connection if the agency themselves sends it up the chain. So if you can't get an appointment with the director and your director can't get an appointment with that director, but you regularly have interactions with the social worker or with the prosecutor or whomever, then perhaps you can use those folks to send that on up the line and do it internal from that agency. Yes, come on in.
So we just got, about a week and a half ago, all of our MOUs and confidentiality signed, which was one of those, I was just ready to call it a day at 10:30 and like go get a celebratory drink. And I was like, I'm done. My job is
Yeah,
done.
yeah.
Because it took a nonstop year to get it. And the challenge wasn't with the people that were actually in the group, you know, the group representatives. It almost always was just bureaucracy, and in ways that I don't know how to distinguish can I say the representatives? Is that the right, like the people that physically come to the meetings?
The team members.
You know, we're kind of just in this shrug, like we don't know what happened, like we send it and then we don't really know where it lands. And so nagging the representatives didn't really get anywhere. They shared our frustration. But also asking if we could go over their heads didn't really work either, because they're like, no, there's a system. And, you know, so, well, can we just contact the, I can't remember terms ever. You know, the legal team,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Sure. Let's go with it. Right. Because like maybe somebody in our office knows the legal person in yours. And feel like, and then you could sense their discomfort. And so without wanting to put them in an uncomfortable position or go around them, because they're the person that we're actually dealing with, so that it doesn't make any sense to sully or tarnish that relationship. And so I don't know, it just, and quite honestly, I don't know what actually worked in the end. Just like wealth times the charm. But you know, so basically it still feels like it feels like a huge feat, but also like I don't know what lesson to take from it, because I don't know what ended up working in the end.
Yeah, and you know, one of our grantees had on almost 3 years, maybe 2.5, without having it signed. And when it did finally get signed, the people signed it in the wrong place. So, you know, that's just crazy. Yeah. Stephanie says she usually starts circulating the MOUs to the agencies in December, and it takes about 6 months and a lot of nagging to get it back. So, you know, the other thing is, you know, there are some that are, everybody has to sign on the same page, and then everybody has their separate pages. And so deciding ahead of time which that's going to be, and if everybody signs on the same page, then, you know, anyway, there's whole different philosophies. But yeah, good stuff. All right, well, let's go to the next one. So, you know, you've been working, and what happens if you still can't get it signed? And they're not even engaging. So what do you do? Well, first, you know, ask, do I really need that agency? Is this agency pivotal to the one that you're going to have? Or, you know, can you do the work without them? Are the frontline staff involved? So are they showing up with or without that MOU? And it's so finding workarounds for how to do that. So perhaps the MOUs are only the key partner agencies, depending upon the type of work you're doing. Perhaps the key partners are APS, prosecution, law enforcement, and some type of victim services. So, you know, maybe those are the ones that have MOUs, and everybody else comes as needed, kind of thing. just make sure that you keep it in such a way that that you're honoring your own policies and procedures as you move about. And it might be that that everyone on the team needs to have that MOU signed. But again, that's going to be decided upon based on your mission, your vision, and what your policies and procedures are around it. So you want to make sure that you're holding up with that. Thoughts, comments, questions? Does everybody have folks that are does everybody have to sign the MOU, or do you have some folks who attend the meetings who aren't part of that core group?
Can you guys hear me?
Huh?
Can you
Yep.
hear me? Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. I'm plugged into the computer, so I didn't know if it was picking up. We do have some people who attend meetings who have been sent an MOU or a confidentiality agreement and have not signed before coming to the meeting. Not very many, and they're usually new to the process. And so we've been doing a lot of that, going back to ask them to sign. And then in one case I'm thinking of, they provided it to us. So I think we only have one. But in terms of if they still won't engage or sign, we have a really funny story that Emma had tried months and months and months and months to get the Office of the State Guardian to attend, and she kept going to the intake line, the people we work with. Well, our managing attorney happened to be at a benefit with legal from Office of the State Guardian and was able to make inroads that way. And then they had a conversation internally, and then they decided, sure, they were going to then send one of their staff. And it was just, we just didn't know what to do. We actually stopped. We thought, do we really need them? Can we do this without them? And we did. We certainly have been, but great that we were finally able to this random benefit where they happen to be sitting near each other. So just wanted to comment.
Yeah, you take it any way you can get it for the, absolutely right.
So I was just going to add, if I can, Lisa, our financial abuse specialty team just incorporated as a 501c3. And so we are working on an MOU specifically for that group and that team, and a specific confidentiality agreement for that. So that team had been meeting, but not doing case review in a way that really identified a specific client or case. And the goal is that they will be able to do case review more effectively with the group actually having structure. My other E-MDT, we have a confidentiality statement that they sign when they start, but our laws allow for the groups that have been meeting to share information in investigations. So those documents aren't necessarily needed, but we are working on that protocol, which will include a confidentiality statement, an agreement, but it's not going to probably have an MOU because it's not technically needed. So that's kind of where we're at in New Hampshire, because we have two different groups that kind of do two different things.
Wait, sorry, Chris, can you explain? So you have two groups that both meet monthly?
Not exactly. I have the New Hampshire Financial Abuse Specialty Team was it actually came out of NCAL, a coordinated community response. It was back in the before 2013. This office had a grant that created our I don't even know what they were, Coalition Against Later Life Abuse, or CALA, which then became New Hampshire FAST. So they went from focusing on later life abuse in general to just financial exploitation. That is the financial abuse specialty team that I inherited when I got here. It is much more community-based, and it doesn't look at investigations necessarily, that cases are being investigated. It looks at cases post disposition. So something that's already happened, they do a case review. And that team is meeting monthly. My other EMDTs, which has really been my focus since I started here, getting them up and running. We have 10 counties, we have 10 county attorneys. We are starting a process where we're law enforcement, APS, our office, and then whoever else needs to be there. We are doing case review in that group, in those groups. So we've had a couple of counties where we've successfully managed that type of EMDT. Hopefully that answers the question.
The one is doing systems work and one's doing case review. And that's fairly typical.
Yes, and I think that's a good way to categorize it. I know that the New Hampshire FAST, they really do want to do more case review, but they have to get the structure under what they're doing first, right? So that's what we're
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on to the others. So participation poll number 2, let's talk about collaboration. Has it ever been hard for your team? Oh, and there's a typo that should say, no, we look like a Disney movie where we all get along. Collaboration has been a problem only when things are getting started. Occasionally there's one problem child. Every team is like pulling teeth. So that means every team meeting is really difficult, painful, and different. So nope, we look like a Disney movie. Everybody gets along. Trouble. It's been hard only when things were getting started. There's really only one problem child. Every team is like pulling teeth. It's really tough. So I think we've all answered, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So let's see the results. Survey says. Oh yeah. Yeah. A couple of people have a problem child. Some people have things that are perfect. So the good news is that it's not trouble every single time. So that's good. So let's look then at some of the things that are going on. And if there are other issues from your team that you can think of, but let's talk about when collaboration is hard. You could have no shows, people who are disruptive or negative, those that are just there to get away from from their own work, using peer pressure for good as a solution, and when to call others in. So if you got no shows, do you have an attendance policy? Do you have something set up that says when we have scheduled meetings, you're expected to come? And is that in the MOU? Is that, is it clear what they are agreeing to when you invite them to do that? And so do you have the right to ask for another representative from their agency if they don't come? Or is it, are you able then to say, we need you to attend because you agreed to, attend X number and you've missed the last, 6 meetings and we can't have that. And if they're not showing, do you let them know what they've missed? In other words, more than simply sending them, the highlights of the meeting, but you send them an email or give them a call and say, we were discussing this particular case and I really missed your input and what your agency could have contributed to that, and felt that it was really difficult for us to have the best solution possible because we were missing your voice. People want to know that they were, that they're missed and that they have an important role in that. So are you telling them that? So about negative and disruptive team members, is there a way of working together that you've set out? Do you do the group norms? Have you discussed kind of a behavioral contract with each other? Is that part of your mission and vision, that you treat each other with respect or things of that sort? Can you employ other team members to help when someone is being disruptive? In other words, say, compliment someone on saying, I really like how you disagreed with me and did so respectfully. And I really appreciate that you held me accountable for something that I had skipped over. And, so are you letting people know what is acceptable behavior and rewarding that, as much as just rolling, your eyes at the folks who are acting out? Can you employ other team members to help with advising that disruptor? Can you say to somebody ahead of time, I appreciate you sitting next to Susie. Sometimes she gets a little out there, and you might want to be able to give her a little side eye or say something to her one-on-one. And if that person is being disruptive, maybe you're going to have to ask for someone else from that agency to come. And how would you deal with that? I really did have someone who came to an MDT meeting, and finally, I mean, she never would say anything. She, didn't participate. And I said to her, I said, you're always so good about coming and being here, but you don't seem to want to talk about much. How come is that? Why do you keep coming if you're not participating? She goes, I just don't want to be at my office. Well, that's not A, it's not the best thing. And B, gee, did you really have to tell me? I mean, couldn't you have fibbed a little bit on that one? So, that's what do you do with that? And, I'm not adverse to, saying something like, let's popcorn this. We're going to go around and each person is going to share one thing that their agency could do for this person. And, when it comes that person's time, you just sit there and wait for them and, call them by name and say, what can you present here? What can you offer? And then ask if they're, are they preventing somebody else from coming? Public speaking is right up there next to dying with what people are afraid of. So for some people, being at some of these meetings and talking in front of other people might be really difficult. And so you can ask them, how could I make it easier for you to participate? What could I do that would clear the space for you to have a chance to say what you want to say? Or, is there something that I can do that would make it easy? And then, as I said, ask a direct question. Esmeralda, can you tell me, what your agency has done on this issue? Are there things that you could do for this client? We heard from what law enforcement is going to do on this. What are your plans for before we meet the next time? What can you do? That kind of stuff. And use peer pressure for good. Use other team members to show the proper way that the team works and compliment those folks for their participation. So you've always got something to add to the conversation, and I just really appreciate hearing from you and the perspective you bring. To say, looks like everyone brought the information today that we talked about in the email. But Sam, I wanted to know, I didn't see yours. Could you tell me, was there something that prevented you from bringing that to the table today? Or, could you give us a summation of blah, 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 blah? you know, call them out and show that everybody else is participating and encourage them to be part of that as well. Thoughts, comments? And then the last thing to think about in terms of when to call others in, you might have to go to their supervisor and see if that could help. If they're telling people they're coming to the meeting and they're not showing up at your meeting, then perhaps the supervisor needs to know that. If they've got such a negative attitude or their burnout is so bad that they're not participating or they're being very, very disruptive, then sometimes it's important to do that. So improving that collaboration, you might want to reach out to the folks that have missed, as I said, who are less engaged, inform them how important their input is, develop and encourage team members to utilize the attendance policy, develop a plan to address the disruption by either employing other team members or create that behavioral contract. This is how we're going to interact with each other. These are our goals for this meeting. And then you can hold them accountable when they don't adhere by it. Encourage and compliment those who are modeling effective ways to communicate. And you can even do a little training on effective communication without calling out the members who are not doing it well. And just use that as a means of strengthening the team and the work that you're doing on that. Okay, thoughts, comments, questions?
We definitely have some no-shows. Our MOU just, you know, is basically that I will participate and contribute to discussions, but we don't have an attendance policy in that. So that's something very interesting. We generally have pretty decent attendance, just as that it's not everybody on the team. I think the team is like 15 or 16 members, and sometimes we'll have 9, sometimes we'll have 10, sometimes we'll have 4. We typically like to have a quorum before going forward. And it is my intention to follow up with a personal email. But then the work happens. So I just really, you know, need to bring that out, make a concerted effort to do that follow-up. That was good advice.
Well, and it's one reason that we advocate for not just other duties as assigned kind of thing, because it can get all consuming just to build the relationships with these individuals and really work towards getting that, you know, that personal interaction back and forth. And that it's takes a lot of time. Thing is, can you find a way to have snacks or coffee or treats, not paid for by the grant, of course, but you know, we used to meet at a residential facility, one of the ritzy ones that would provide breakfast pizzas for everybody. And so those were absolutely well attended because people could cook, and you know, that was very cool. So what can you do, you know, to, and one of the things that I did for one agency that consistently had no shows, because they said, you know, we're APS, we've got phone assignments, you know, I can't leave the building. Great, then we'll meet at your office. What size conference room do you have that would, you know, that we could do this? And that was twofold. One, you can't, it makes it a lot harder for somebody not to come to a meeting that's just down the hall from them. And two, it let the rest of the team see how many times the phone rang during the course of the meeting that APS person had to step out, and gave validity to what they were saying about why it was so difficult for them. to take that break to attend that meeting. And that was very, very beneficial. So, yeah. What are some solutions that y'all have had to when collaboration's been hard or difficulty getting MOUs signed, or what have, I mean, Stephanie worked 6 months on it just to start it over again 6 months later.
Yeah, I'll start again in December. I typically, so what I do when I start in December is we have a holiday party / meeting where I provide, me personally, buy the snacks. So everybody can have some food, and I bring the MOU with me. So it's like a business meeting wrap up, and I lay them all out, like find yours and sign it. You know, not everybody comes, but then I can give it to a person who's at that agency. Hey, take it to your director to have signed or whatever. But still, you know, not everybody shows up. So then I take what's remaining, go back to the office, have to email it to whoever, and then that takes a while. And that's when it kind of gets dropped, because like Jamie says, then work happens. And I forget, and then I go back to my little folder later. Oh crap, I need to follow up with so-and-so. And it's been like 2 months. So it's just hard sometimes.
Yeah.
I had a situation where I was trying to get the MOU signed, and the law enforcement officer was really invested in the project and said, you know, I'm having lunch with the DA tomorrow. Do you want me to just take it over? You know, and so I used their rapport, their personal rapport, to get 2 signatures in one. And it works. So sometimes your MOU partners can help you get another MOU partner to sign.
Excellent. Yes.
So I know people have talked about food and using partners, but that was exactly how we did it years ago with a child advocacy center. We invited everybody to the grand opening, and we'd already presented it at the chiefs meetings. So they have a county-wide chief of police meetings, and the county attorney at the time had told, you know, sheriff's department and all the chiefs that this is what they expected to happen. And so when the county attorney says that, typically it happens. And so we had the big grand opening, and one of the the police relief associations paid for it to be catered, and everybody signed. So we made an event out of it. And one of the other meetings I used to attend regularly, and mostly because there was food, but when I worked for Child Protection again, there was a partnership with one of the high schools who had a technical program, and they actually ran a restaurant in the high school technical program. And so I don't know exactly how they paid for it, but you could go to this. So they would run their meeting in the high school technical program restaurant. So everybody would get food and you'd get served. And it was an amazing, it was always really good. And the kids were getting to learn how to cook. And so, you know, a technical school, or it's not our target population, obviously, because we're working with older adults, but it does give the students an opportunity to show off what they're learning and to practice. And we got really good food. So that was a very, very, very well attended meeting.
That's
Excellent.
really cool. And I know I'm just complaining to the choir. So, but yeah, I mean, it comes out of, it's like $25-30 every month that comes out of my pocket. And it's like, we all know that it's essential. So, but it's really not fair, especially since it's a part of almost like every curriculum is if you want people to come to meetings. So I don't know if there's any way to throw that up the chain. Like, we're not taking advantage of it. We're not, you know, getting oysters and caviar. It's really just, you know, donuts and cold coffee.
Sometime I'll tell you the story of the muffin and how that did away with grant funds being able to be used
Oh no.
for funds, but yeah, on a federal level. So sometimes ask other you know, agencies, other, you know, partners to to bring it
We're
to.
hosting, you know, what I mean, that's like
I
the
know,
one
yeah.
responsibility of hosting.
Yeah, then, run it up your agency chain and see if you can get reimbursed from a separate funding source. And that's how I did it often with the one that I did. So when I had to do it out of pocket, got my agency found a way to reimburse me on that periodically. So, that would mean a trip to the grocery store. And, sometimes my supervisor would say, oh, well, I'll make some, banana bread or blah, blah, blah. And, that she was always late. So, it was like, well, if I take her up on that, it's cheaper for me, but it also means that we're not going to get our snacks until 10 minutes after I've started the meeting. So, you have to kind of pick and choose. But yeah, so let me share a few more things. Where's my, there we go. So what I got a couple of the quotes from the resources over on the DOJ site, and we'll send these slides out to you. And then, as I said, Candy did some research for us, and we have a MOU report that we can send to you if you'd like, and it's real helpful. But yeah. So, and you know who I am and where to find me. So we got about a few more minutes. Other thoughts, comments, or questions? In the chat is a survey. Please put that out there.
Yeah.
Go ahead, jump on in.
Oh, well, no, and I'm sorry, I had to step away. I had a coworker come by. It's the problem with being a cubicle. But as far as getting other people to, I've learned to just shamelessly ask other people to provide snacks. And in particularly, I have a lot of banks and bankers who sit on my New Hampshire fast or present with me. And so I often tell them, I'm like, you know what, I'm grant funded. I can't do this, but the only way we're going to get attendance at this is if you can help. And typically they have money because they're banks and credit unions. Credit unions have a lot of money. But I also have someone from the sheriff's department who loves to bake. So if you can find that one, and he just lets the world know that he loves to bake. So I just rely on them, and yeah, and I'm just shameless about it, and they get it. I work for the state, so but it isn't fair, Serena, and I do what I just turned my video off was to give my coworker candy because I am the candy lady in my office. And you probably can't see this because I have my back. Well, maybe you can, but this is actually full of candy. And she wanted to know where the snacks were. So, if it's not for an E-MDT meeting, it's just for my coworkers.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to say that my E-MDT knows the only time they get food is at the holiday. And in order to, and Lisa knows this, in order to garner more attendance, I mean, we were meeting in person, but it got frustrating for me because we had very little in person. Ever since COVID, people just want to do Zoom. So I just said, forget it, I'm doing Zoom. So therefore, Serena, I don't have to do those snacks, but once a year. But I mean, my team is kind of scattered. We're a regional team, so it takes them a while to get. So, I mean, if Philadelphia, if they're close to you, it would make sense that you would have it in person. But anywho, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, but there's nothing more frustrating than when you do get all the snacks and then no one shows up. I mean, except more snacks for you, sure, but
That's horrifying, Serena. I'm sorry about that. But as far as the Zoom meeting, I actually just tried that with, and the county attorney where I was meeting was like, no, I find these meetings to be better if we do it in person. And so we all drove to him, and that was fine. And it was a very successful meeting. But I cover the entire state. Like I said, it's 10 counties, and it's not that big. New Hampshire's not huge, but it does take 4 hours from the south to the north, right? So, and I live right smack dab in the middle of that. And it's about 2.5 to 3 hours east-west all the way across. And so I find myself going wherever, because typically if they're just, when they're starting these meetings, they do not want to meet by Zoom or Teams. They want to be in person.
We are a full Zoom meeting. We don't even do a one individual meeting per year in person. It just would not, I would get 0 attendance for sure. That's a lot to do with some of the folks that are on the call are they're APS, they're kind of out and about, they're moving around, or they're coming from another meeting. And then any of the attorneys that are on the call are doing Zoom court still for the most part. So we are I think in order to keep my attendance, I have to keep it on Zoom.
But don't you think there's like a big quality difference in I prefer Zoom meetings for all the other things that I have to attend, and I'm always very grateful for them. But I find for the meetings that I facilitate, it's such a difference in the level of engagement and the camaraderie, the affection, the just like humor. It creates a much more cohesive group when people are in person, and that's hard to maybe. And it's actually not even maybe, it's entirely selfish. Because I like the group better when they're in person. And I can just see that there's one team that rarely comes in person, and I can just see how disaffected they are. They're just like, meh.
I mean, it's an interesting thought, but like traveling in Chicago or in Cook County is enough. I mean, I wouldn't go to a meeting. I was like parking in car and how am I getting there and what a mess. We just have a transportation issue here. Even though we have a public transportation, it just is not. And a lot of folks are still like work from home, and they could be in the suburbs, and it's like getting over a mountain back and forth. So,
well, of course, where Marty used to work, they had some people fly to some of their meetings. So,
wow,
Nevada, yeah. We were going from one to the next, and we got on the plane, and there's people from that meeting, because that's how they get there too. So
it was statewide though. We had 7-hour drive otherwise.
So yeah. Plus cheap flights. So
More.
yeah, not anymore. All righty, folks. Well, y'all have done, great work with all of this, and just really want to remind you that that collaboration may be hard, but it is absolutely essential. We can't do our job without it, so just keep at it, and got some ideas with how to switch the narrative a little bit and keep things going in a more positive, engaging way to bring some of those folks on, and add it with those MOUs. So, all righty. Again, thank you, and don't forget to fill out your survey, and let us know if there's anything else you need. And we'll see you on the PLG on November 1st. So thanks so much.
We appreciate it.
Bye.
Take care.